If you don't know, our company is focused on entrepreneurship and nurturing the community of global change makers. And this is why we organize a lot of events here focused on entrepreneurship to help our community grow their businesses and leverage on
some
our
questions and
strengths
answers, right?
and use the community to expand
I walk around
and
the microphone, so if someone has
grow
a
their
question.
business.
Well,
And
one
today
comment,
our speaker
I encourage
is,
people to
one
ask
of
questions
the
anytime, so you might want to
best
have it ready during the
Okay,
talk
yeah,
as
so
well.
I'll be
digital
ready.
marketing.
Just,
Yeah.
His
Okay,
name
cool.
is Damien Forsythe. He is from Bahamas, and he came here in
March.
There is a funny story how we met, but I'm not going to tell that because he will kill me. So Damien, you can ask me later, or you can ask me. Damien is a business consultant with a specialization and proven experience. I think it's more than 10 years in digital marketing, e-commerce, mobile branding, analytics, and web design. He has worked across different sectors on multi-million-dollar online ad campaigns, as well as with startups and small businesses looking to grow their businesses online. He holds a business and e-commerce degree from the University of New Brunswick in Canada, and has presented and taught at industry events and holds several certifications. He's also are you certified in Wealth Dynamics?
Certified? No, but I've given a presentation on it before.
Yeah, he also given a lot of presentations on Wealth Dynamics. He is a Lord.
Mechanic and Lord.
Mechanic, Lord and mechanic.
Mechanic, Lord.
Yeah, if you don't know, our company has a very amazing tool that is called Wealth Dynamics. This tool helps entrepreneurs to find out their profile and design their work and business according to their profile and be in the flow without struggling and taking a lot of effort. Check it out, wealthdynamics.com. Our founder is Roger Hamilton. Google him, he's amazing, and we really miss him here. And he's doing his tour. He just launched his online program, Entrepreneur Mentor Certification. Yes, and we have two people here who are doing this online course, Mila and Marilyn, and we're happy to have you here. This is awesome, and we're happy that people within our network, we have around more than 600,000 people at Genius View Network, and we're happy to give them a chance to connect here at our location. This is really amazing. Thank you, Damien, for being with us. I know that you're very busy, and the floor is yours, and please, warm welcome for Damien Forsythe.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. Dee, Riki, thank you for having me. Just to give a backstory, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Genius Cafe and the group that Genius Cafe is a part of with Roger Hamilton. I've been around this space for a while, and I took the personality testing that Dee spoke about 8 years ago, given presentations on it. It's called Wealth Dynamics. You should check it out. If you look on the board there, you'll see all the logos of a lot of the companies that are related. So I encourage you to check them out and understand your personality profiling and things of that nature that really going to help you in life and in business. And as Dee said, I'm a mechanic in the context of these profiles, which means I love to tinker and figure things out. They're on the other side of the spectrum of creators and stars and things of that nature. I'm not really that type of person. So as a consultant, that's why I really like it, because people bring their businesses to me and they say, I want to do it, and I help figure it out and think it through. I wouldn't be great at starting businesses, but I'm great at fixing them and improving them and maintaining them. So that's kind of what I do as a consultant. So this talk I've given in similar ways before, and next time I do it, I'm actually going to change the title. So right now it says website, and that's kind of a legacy thing, because the principles we're going to talk about can apply to apps, they can apply to prototypes and wireframes and all sorts of things, or other ways you're interacting with your customers. So we're going to do it here in the context of a website, but an app on a phone, the principles will basically still apply. And at the end of the day, a website is a web application when you really break it down. So a website is a form of app as well. So we'll get started. Dee said a lot of this already, so I'm born in the Bahamas. So Bahamas and Bali, not a bad combination, right? I was born and raised in the Bahamas, studied in Canada, lived in America for a bit, lived in the UK for a little bit. Bahamas definitely home. And I spent the last 10 years or so in digital corporate consulting with small businesses, big businesses, startups, and everything in between. I got a degree in business and e-commerce many years ago, which is now totally useless because that was before Facebook existed, before YouTube existed, before Twitter existed. So it was just a start, and you kind of have to keep moving in this industry. So it's actually a great thing for you here who are maybe starting out or your business is new. If you can stay current and you can get in front of the pack because you have to stay in motion. Unlike other industries like law, engineering, there's an old guard and there's an old boys network and things like that you have to go through. In this business, you can get on a new platform, get on a new space. The internet is, in theory, democratic. Everyone has a chance to do their thing, so I would encourage you all to do that. I'm transitioning to being a digital nomad and a kind of independent consultant. So in January, I left my corporate gig after many years and spent 3 months traveling all over the world, basically, and ended up in Bali. Met Dee, met Genius Cafe, met a lot of the other digital nomads in the community and a lot of the other co-working spaces, and liked it. I've been there a few months and I'll be here till at least December. Go home for Christmas and then decide from there. So I'm transitioning into a new phase of life, and for those of you who are doing the same, I encourage you to say hello and let's talk about it, because I'm trying to meet people and learn people like yourself who are maybe further along in the digital nomad journey than I am. Okay, what we're going to cover, hard versus soft elements. I'll get into all these details during the presentation, but just to give you an overview, kind of a table of contents. On-site versus off-site considerations, principles to live by when you're thinking about user experience and conversion optimization, metrics that matter, tools and references that you can use, advanced techniques, and Q&A. One thing about Q&A is you can ask a question anytime. Interrupt me at any moment. The presentation is somewhat scaled down to leave time for Q&A. So Riki has a mic, and she'll pass it around at any time if you want to ask a question. So if we're talking about something at that moment, just stop me and let's discuss it, yeah? One habit I got into is saying yeah after every sentence, because that's what they do in Bali. Yeah. So you forgive me if I do that. Okay, soft versus hard elements. So for the context of the presentation, we have to keep some things constant. And these are not industry terms. I totally made these up. So don't look for soft elements or hard elements in any book. What I'm going to define as the soft elements are things that are not necessarily in your direct control and in the direct context of your conversion optimization. So do you have a strong brand? Do you have fair prices? Do you have a correct target market? Do you have a good reputation? Do you have good customer service, et cetera, et cetera? So the things we're going to look at, which I'm going to call the hard elements, which are more directly in our control, won't work if you have a terrible business, if you're overpriced, if you have terrible customer service, you have a bad reputation. So we have to keep those variables constant. So the stuff we're talking about, which I'm going to call hard elements, are going to improve your business from the static base that we're going to set. So if you're a bad business, this will still help. If you're a good business, it will still help. But we're not going to discuss outside of this, should I charge $10 or $20 for your product? That's a bigger conversation. The hard elements we're going to talk, and can everyone see this with the sun and with the small font? Yeah? Okay. So how fast is your site? Does your site work on different devices? Is your site attractive? Do you have popular payment methods? Is your site secure, etc.? So those are the things in the context we're gonna get into. Off-site versus on-site. Again, there are things that are off your site, which you're not necessarily going to talk about directly, and there are things on your site which are more in direct control. So the things off your site, is your traffic targeted? If you have traffic that's terribly targeted, you're not going to convert it, no matter how good your website or your app is. So again, we're going to have to keep that constant. The traffic source mix, certain traffic channels and ways you get traffic are going to convert better than others. So if you shift your mix to a more profitable and more higher converting channel, your conversion rate overall is going to look better. So how you mix your traffic is going to be a consideration that we're going to keep constant as well. Volume versus precision, in general terms. The more traffic you get, the lower your conversion rate. This is a generality, but it's generally true. If you just send your business link to your family and friends, your conversion rate is going to be 100%. But you have to get beyond your family and friends to actually grow your business. So then you go to your community and your wider network and your people in your country and then people worldwide. So really big businesses might have a very low conversion rate. You know, think of the major retailers in the world, Amazon or Walmart or whatever, but they're dealing with such high volume that they have to go mass market. So in principle, the more traffic you get, the lower the conversion rate. Your competition, we're not going to speak about that. Your market conditions and seasonality, obviously, traditionally Q4, Christmas is a spike in seasonality, so we're going to have to blend out the seasonality for the context of the presentation. Metrics and benchmarks. So these are the things we're going to think about when we talk about conversion testing. So obviously conversion rates, which is the primary thing we're kind of all leading to. And in general terms, there's a primary and a secondary in most situations, somewhat tertiary and maybe fourth, fifth level conversion rate. So if you're a software business selling a high-end software product, no one's going to give you a credit card to buy a custom software product. It's too expensive. You don't know the specs. So the conversion is maybe the lead. Them sending you a contact us, them sending you an email, giving you a phone call. So that may be the primary. If you're Amazon, your primary is buying the product. Your secondary may be signing up for an email, maybe adding it to a wish list, maybe sending to a friend a shopping cart request, setting up a bridal registry. So we're going to think in context of primary and secondary. You can't just think if someone came on your site and they bought, that's a win. That is a win, but it's not a loss if they didn't, because they do something else that has value. More or less time on site. So if someone spends more time on your site, is it better? Yes? If they end up buying? Well, if they end up buying, definitely. In general terms, more could be good and more could be bad. More could be they're more engaged. More could be your site is terribly designed and I can't find what I'm looking for. And I'm confused. So much of this conversation is going to be contextual. And they're going to be very pointed questions maybe, and I've had them many times. Is X, Y, Z better? Is this going to convert better if I do this or this? And I have to say, well, I need way more context. And I can't just answer that question in absolute terms. So more could be better and less could be better and vice versa. The same thing with number of pages. Could be more pages because they're more engaged or more pages because you have way too many pages. Is your shopping cart 8 pages long where they're actually making the purchase? Or is it 2 pages that is much lighter and cleaner? So again, it's very contextual. Bounce rate. This is people that enter your site and leave. Generally higher the worse and lower the better. More or less customer emails. Again, it's a bit contextual. So if you have a lot of customer service emails of people who are asking you repetitive questions, maybe your site's not answering it for them. Maybe you don't have a strong FAQs. Maybe you're not intercepting that question before they actually ask it. That really helps. So in the context of your metrics, receiving customer emails, more may be better if they're relevant and if they're customized and if they're sales driven, and more could be worse if they're repetitive and customer service and really simple questions that your website should be answering for them. More or less customer phone calls in the same vein as customer emails, and more or less customer foot traffic in the same vein of the previous two. So people coming into your shop or your store could be better or could be worse depending on the purpose that they're coming in for and stuff that the website could have answered for them in theory. Okay, less, this is one principle. Less is mostly more. So the less you ask of your customers within reason, the better. And this is particularly relevant in contact us forms, lead generation, shopping cart, asking for personal information. Most people ask for too much information too early. And it's kind of like dating. You know, you see a guy or a girl, you say, you know, let's get engaged. No. Or, you know, give me your private details. No. Let's get together. Let's have a coffee. What's your name? Where are you from? Really simple, easy questions to get the conversation started. And that's very similar with the website. So a lot of people will, particularly B2B, business to business leads. How much turnover does your company do? What is your title? What is your profit? And et cetera, et cetera. And you're like, I don't want to share that information. I don't even know you yet. So in most cases, if you have a business where contacting you and leads and everything are important, just get the name, email, message. Usually it's enough. And then the rest can follow. Or when they send the message, you can drop them off on a second page that says, we've got your message, we will contact you, but here are some optional things that would help in the process. You've already got the lead. You've already got the conversion. So don't let that stuff get in the way of making the actual conversion. I don't want to just drone on forever, so please, if someone has questions at any time, Riki has a mic and she'll bring it over. Faster is universally always better. So this graph here is representative of every second your site takes to load, your conversion rate and your drops. Obviously, there are going to be limits. Even the best sites in the world, Apple and things of that, load in a couple seconds, a few seconds, and you're not going to get faster than that if you have a site of any type of size and any type of content. But the lower you can get on this graph, the better. And the things you can do is code your site properly. So that's a conversation to have with your developer if you're not coding your site yourself. Optimizing your images, hosting your site on a quality, look at this bird joining the presentation. Hosting your site on a quality host. That's maybe sharing your site on different servers around the world, depending on where your target market is. You want to serve your site as close as possible to that person's physical location, because even in the world of fiber optics, physical distance still matters. So if you're serving your site from America and I'm in Bali, there's going to be a lag just because it's 10,000 miles away. So maybe that should be served from Singapore, for example, where they have larger data centers that probably are the closest and fastest to Bali. So think about that in the context of your site. Speed is critical. Device and browser responsiveness. So obviously we all have between 8 and 28 devices at home, and we use them all every day. So how your site and your app renders on those devices is extremely critical. And obviously the three groups are mobile, tablet, and desktop and laptops are in the same group. Taking it a step further, depending on your business, it could be alternative devices. It could be, iPods. It could be certain Android tablets. It could be PlayStation that show devices on a TV screen. So most of those are going to be special use cases, but depending on your business, they could be relevant. So browser and device responsiveness is absolutely critical. Social proof. There's a great book on marketing called The Science of Influence by Robert Cialdini, American PhD kind of data scientist, marketing scientist. And it's a great book. I recommend you all read it for life and sales and business. And one of the things that is fundamental to that is social proof. It's a fancy word for do I trust you, do I know you, do I like you, who else likes you. And the more you can transmit those things on your website, the better you're going to do. And in practical terms, what are those things? Testimonials, previous customers if you have positive experiences. Trust seals, these are things that can either verify the technicalities of your site. Is your site secure? Companies like McAfee and Norton, common names you'd recognize, you can pay them to verify that your site's secure, and if you're sharing personal information, it's generally not going to be taken and intercepted, and your identity is going to be stolen or your credit card is going to be taken. So trust seals are extremely important. Outside of just technical trust seals, you can have industry trust seals. So are you a member of a certain association? Are you a member of Chamber of Commerce or a Better Business Bureau? Or are you certified in AdWords? Or are you certified in anything that's really relevant to your space? So the more you can use those trust seals, the better. Prominently displaying your phone number. So a lot of people don't display their phone number because they don't want to get any phone calls. But also a lot of fly-by-night people don't display their phone number because there's nowhere to call. So when people see your phone number, a lot of times it gives them a warm, fuzzy feeling. They probably don't even want to call you either because they want to transact on the web. But if they see a phone number, they feel like there's somebody there that they can call and they can find if they have a problem. So don't run away from your phone number. Physical location, if it's relevant to you and you have physical locations, prominently show them. Even if I'm transacting online and you're halfway around the world, the fact you have a store or an office in a proper location or a professional location, it gives me some credence. It gives me some, again, warm, fuzzy feelings that I can trust you and I can find you if there's a problem, that you have some permanency as opposed to just being a website, particularly when there's no brand or there's nothing that binds me. I may have found you through a search or through an ad or whatever the case may be. So I don't have any preconceived notion or understanding of you. Guarantees and a transparent About Us page. about us, similar to the phone number and the locations. The more you can show that you're real, and you're a real person, and you have a story, and you have a business, and the business has a story, the better. Again, think about you're competing depending on your business and your awareness or lack thereof to that customer. You're competing with someone who just set up joeblow.com the day before. And they can do the same thing you can do, but they can't tell a story, or they can't show a physical location, they can't show a phone number, they can't show customer testimonials, and they can't show anything here because they're not real. So if you don't use these things, the customer can't tell you apart from the other fly-by-night site that was set up the day before. So the more you can do, the better your conversion rate's going to be. Paradox of Choice. This was another great book. And basically it's about modern society. We have a ridiculous amount of choice now. A great example in the book was salad dressings. This is a slight digression, but 30 years ago, 40 years ago in America, they had, balsamic, vinegar, and ranch, basically. And they show a photograph of a current supermarket aisle. It's like 200. And how do you choose a salad dressing? Much less choose, where to go to school, or where to live, or where to work, or what product to buy. So these things are really becoming difficult. There's too much choice. So when someone comes to your site, you want to limit choice, not in the choice necessarily of your product catalog or your business, but your choice of their movements, of their next steps. Once they get to the cart, you don't want to give them the menu anymore. You want to try to focus them on making the purchase. You want to limit the choice, narrow the path, and get them to purchase. Because if you leave people to their own devices, they're just going to go crazy. It's almost like herding cats. So in a lot of ways on the site and your app and your business, you have to hold their hand and kind of tell them where to go next. You can't literally say it because that's just creepy. But in your design and in the context of your business, you have to make it clear that the next step is this. And even more subtly, you start removing navigation, you start removing footers. The page starts lightening and narrowing, and people see, okay, the next step is this. Shopping cart. So this is generally critically where it happens. And again, if you're doing a coaching business or a software business or anything that generates leads, you could replace shopping cart with, say, contact us page or application page. Basically, I'm using shopping cart as the placeholder for where the lead or the conversion actually happens. So this is where things are very critical and people have a very critical eye. And they also have extremely critical eye when they're putting down their credit card and their personal information and their address and what so have you. So all these things we're talking about are overly critical in the shopping cart, the contact us, the lead generation page. So the shorter the better. I've got into that before. So as short as you can reasonably make your shopping cart, the better. The less fields you can have, the better. Forget optional things. If it's optional, then just take it off. You don't need it, because like any funnel starts wide and comes low, every step in that funnel, there's a drop-off. It could be 1%, it could be 10, it could be 50. But there will always be a drop-off from one step to the next. And the more fields you add, the more steps you require, it continues to drop off and leak out of that funnel. Only ask for what you need. Use social proof here, big time. When someone's putting in their card, do you like to see a trust seal? VeriSign says the site is safe. Norton says the site is safe. And you can put your card in. And a lot of these things, keep in mind, when I have these conversations with clients, they'll say, oh, that's only a 1% lift, or, that's not a big deal. And I'm like, oh, we outlined 20 of these things. So if your business was going to grow 20, 30, 40, 50%, does that mean a lot to you? So a lot of these things are 1% victories, 5% victories, 2.2% victories, but they're all going to add up and be incremental. And it's a perpetual process of iteration, A/B test. This one's better, test again, test again. It's just a perpetual iteration. Security matters, reinforce your guarantees. Some of these guarantees are not necessarily technical or web in nature, but it could be you have a free return policy, or what is your return policy? You have free shipping, anything that applies some type of guarantee. Use abandonment campaigns, a bit more advanced, but if someone's in your shopping cart, and I think we've all experienced it in some way or another, and they don't purchase, do you have a way to contact them? Did you get their email as part of that process? And you can email them and say, hey, I saw you didn't complete. If you click this, or if you call me, I'll help you finish. because maybe they got distracted or they were unsure about something or didn't feel safe. So use abandonment programs, and you can also do retargeting, which I think we'll talk about in a bit. And you obviously use mainstream payment options. So this is going to be universal in the sense of the major credit cards, but also regional. China, Union Pay, and other countries have their own local payment systems. So make sure you're using what's relevant to your audience as far as payment methods. Things like PayPal. There's been different studies. You add PayPal, you increase your conversion rate by X% because some people want to use PayPal. Other considerations. Just checking in again. Questions? You like to hear me drone on? Okay, CTA is call to action. That's the standard term. Generally, you want those to stand out. So is there a button to click contact us, order now, whatever, again, that next action should be? You kind of want to make it stand out. It depends on the personality and the relationship of your business to your customers. Some businesses can be more playful and garish. They can make really big buttons, really colorful. They can use arrows because that's the personality of the business. If you're a software business or a high-end corporate business, that's not going to be conducive to your clientele. So you have to do it in the context of your business and your industry, but you want to make the action and the call to action stand out. Avoid moving images. So there's a lot of studies around this, and there's a lot of evolutionary concepts of human nature. When you see something moving in your vision, especially your peripheral vision, it's unnerving. Because when we lived on the Serengeti plains, that could have been a threat. It could have killed us. So when you go to a site and you have these carousel of moving images, generally it's not good. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but if I have my screen up and I'm just maybe writing down something, the peripheral vision of that carousel, I have to close it because it's too distracting and it draws my attention away from what I'm trying to write, because in our DNA, that's a threat and we have to get rid of it. Does anyone have that experience where they have something moving on the screen and they feel like it's too distracting? Is everyone awake, or is that a yes or no? Yes, maybe? Okay, I'll take it. So avoid cheesy stock images. People can see stock images a mile away, so try to avoid them as much as you can. I think for some images, I've seen many times, I think if you go to Getty Images and you type, secretary or whatever, people take the first image. And I've seen that image so many times, and it shows clearly that you're using stock images. Consider the fold. What the fold is what you see above your screen when you land on the page. The fold is not an exact measurement because it depends on the size of your screen, depends on the resolution and stuff like that. But generally there's a reasonable range you can estimate based on your site. And you can also look deeper in your analytics and see the dominant device types and dominant screen resolutions that are coming to your site. And you can estimate pretty closely where the fold is going to be on your site. And you want something above the fold to capture their attention. Obviously, for most businesses and sites, you can't put your entire site above the fold. It's just, the real estate is just too small. But when they get to the fold, you need something to capture their attention, something to give them trust, something to have them move through further down the page or to the next page. So above the fold is very important. Create urgency, I put in brackets where appropriate. This can be overused and it can become quite cheesy and you can turn people off. But in certain contexts, urgency is important and can work. Delivery times, a bit outside of e-commerce, but if you, in the cart and you're delivering a physical item, telling the customer how long it's going to take is going to give them a lot of assurance, similar to the guarantees that I'd mentioned before, and they're going to be more inclined to purchase. Live chat, and again in brackets, if appropriate and if managed. A lot of people throw up live chat on their site because it takes a second to put the code in, but there's no one there. And they don't turn it off when no one's available, and you click it and you either wait and no one's ever coming, or you click it and says, oh, we're not available, send a message. Well, why did you show me live chat? So these things leave a bad taste in people's mouths. So you're better off not using something like live chat as opposed to using it poorly. More considerations. Use tripwires, and that's an industry marketing term for getting a small purchase with a customer. And again, it comes back to the dating. you ask someone to have a coffee, not to get engaged. So if you have a low-level product, an inexpensive product, and you get someone to buy, they're dramatically more inclined to buy maybe your lead product or your more valuable product or your higher margin product. So a lot of people use tripwires and actually, some people call them loss leaders. Same in retail. A lot of these principles are universal and they've been used for many, many years. We're just applying them to a digital context. So you walk into a store or you walk in the mall and each store is competing for your attention. They'll put a great sale item in the front or a great rack in the front. Fantastic prices. They're probably losing money on that item, but then you go in the store and you go deeper and you buy the stuff at regular price, at higher margin. So if you can get someone to buy a $5 product from you, they will be more inclined to buy a $100 product from you. So there is a school of thought in marketing to just promote the low cost, potentially low margin, even loss leading product up front, get their details, get their trust, maybe save their financial information, and then you come back to them with the higher value, higher margin product later. Email automation. So if someone signs up and they make a purchase, can you put them in a welcome series and an automatic funnel where there's some automation and it increases your conversion rate as you're contacting that person more and more. Funnel analysis. So there are a lot of things you can do in analytics and other programs like it to analyze your funnel. So where are you losing your people when it comes to a shopping cart or a lead page? And it's similar to forms. So if someone's on a form, are you asking them, how did you find out about us? Maybe it's a good question, maybe it's not. But in your form analytics and your funnel analytics, that might be the feel that people are dropping off because they didn't really remember how they found you. And they think that's really important or it's required, and maybe it's not. And people are falling off. So you can do analytics on your forms, on your checkout, on your application pages, on your contact us pages, and see where people are falling off. So that's kind of the science of marketing as opposed to the art of marketing. Data quality, extremely, extremely important and extremely underrated. So for you to do a lot of these things, you have to have clean data. So you have to know where people are coming from on your site. You have to have a program like Google Analytics and others that are recording that traffic, and the data has to be clean so you can make decisions on it. Because if you can't trust it, it becomes difficult or imprecise or just wrong to make decisions on the data that you're seeing that's not actually clean. Response time, again, a bit outside of the context of digital, but if someone emails you or sends a contact us or sends you a Facebook message or a Twitter message, depending on the platform, they expect a really, really quick response. Twitter, they expect the fastest because of the nature of tweets. Emails, they don't expect it as fast. Facebook, not as fast. But the faster you can reply, the better your conversion rate is going to be. On-site search, there have been clients I've had that have had really good on-site search. They've had a big catalog. And when they search in the analytics, we record them as a segment of people on the site. And they converted 2 or 3 times the average visitor. So there's things you can do like on-site search that really help the conversion rate, help people find what they want, help people get deeper in the funnel. So if they come to the home page, they're kind of at the top of the funnel because you don't know what they want. They search precisely and they get dropped off on the product page that they want. They're kind of at the middle of the funnel at that point. And then the next step is the bottom of the funnel, which is add to cart, purchase. So any features you can add, like an on-site search, are going to help. Return policies, again, as part of the guarantees of the shopping cart, if you can tell people it's free returns, what is the return policy, how do they return, before the purchase, people consider that very, very highly. And I've worked with retail clients, and that's been a big consideration of people when they've made the purchase in the user testing and in watching the customer service emails that have followed. And if you can paradoxically tell them the return policy before they buy, they're more inclined to buy. Intuitively, you kind of want to avoid the return conversation, but people consider it in great detail before they actually buy. Tools you can use, there are many, many more. These are kind of common. You need a mic, or you just, I think they might need it for the sound.
Hello. Hi. So you mentioned using videos is good, but moving images not good. What about those hero kind of videos that's now kind of trending?
Mm-hmm.
What about those?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. You know, video is good, but also video that the user can control as opposed to autoplay. And generally those videos are a bit more in the background, so you can still act in the foreground to what you need to do, and that's running in the background. So I would say it's not as bad as having a carousel where the content's changing and the buttons are changing with it. And it's not as good as, say, having a video where people are initiating it. So I don't know the exact stats on that, but I would say it's somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Okay, these are different tools. So these are fairly common, and there'll be many, many, many others you can use as well. Hotjar is a software. It's a weird name, but it's a software that captures your users' activity. It captures their clicks. It captures their scroll activity. It captures any forms you have to see how people are filling them out and what they're doing. It captures people's recordings, so you watch voyeuristically in real time as their mouse moves around. And when you watch these things, you can kind of feel through the mouse where the confusion is happening and how the navigation is happening. Critical when it comes to thinking about your conversion and improving your site. Because what's going to happen is best practices and your common sense and the common sense of your friends and family who comment on your site and your business are only going to take you so far. And once you get to a best practice point, and let's say that's 90%, you're not going to be able to guess the last 10%. No one will, because you don't know how people are going to react. So you go to the best practice, and then from there the data has to kind of take you the rest of the way. And that's what these tools help you do. Google Analytics, universal. So Google Analytics is foundational to a lot of this data. User testing, this is a great service I've used many times. And it used to be back in the day you'd have to get a laboratory and a bunch of computers and proctors and get people in a room and run a focus group or a lab experiment, and it would be enormously costly and time intensive. User testing, what they do is they have people literally all over the world on different devices, on different platforms, different ages, different demographic data, and they have software on their computer, and you send xyz.com, and they'll go on and you give them 20 questions or 20 actions to take or tasks to take, and they'll do them, and they will talk over the recording and tell you, oh, you told me to find this product, I can't find it, where is it? And when you watch the video, it becomes crystal clear where some of the confusions are. And a lot of people, everyone here included and myself, can be blind, can be unaware of what they should do, what they should see. It might be right in front of their face, but they're not seeing it because they're just blind or they're preoccupied or whatever the case may be. So sometimes you have to design down a bit to your audience, and stuff like usertesting.com helps. And it's quite a quick process. So you can request a video once you send the proper instructions. Each video will be about $50 to $100 depending on the time required in your plan. And if you're in a major market, a major country, someone may pick it up in an hour. They'll do the test and they'll render the video in an hour. So in 2 hours you'll have that video back. And you can iterate on those changes, test again. So you can do in a week several of these iterations and just keep going. There will be a point maybe you don't need it anymore and the data takes over because you've done all the big wins. But a site like usertesting.com is pretty fantastic. You can test apps, you can test your prototypes, your wireframes, you can give them passwords to an intranet or safe site, you can send them NDAs. So you can also test stuff that's not even in production or not even published. Visual Website Optimizer and Optimizely, these are tools that you do A/B testing. So you can test different versions of your site, different colors, different button sizes, anything under the sun. Some things are not going to be meaningful after you've done the test, and that's the nature of testing. And some things are going to be positive and some are going to be incremental. But this is the nature of the game. And in fairness to these tools, the more scale you have, the better. If your business is too small or you're just starting out, don't worry about A/B testing. Just get the basics done. But if you get enough scale and you have enough traffic and enough business and turnover, then that 5% improvement is a lot of money. And the tools like this that get you over that last 5% or that last 10%. Because if I ask you what color is going to do better on a button, red or blue, half are going to say red, half are going to say blue, and we don't know which one's going to win. The data is going to show you that. And only tools like this can make it statistically valid, can serve it equally record the devices and the times a day and other things that people are reacting, that you can actually act on it. Advanced techniques, we spoke about a bit of these, but A/B testing. Further than that is multivariate testing. So you have, say, 3 elements on a page, and you want to test the combination of those 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. So you're actually serving 9 versions of the same page, interchanging these 3 elements with 2 versions of them. And if you have 4, it becomes 16, and it becomes exponential. So you need a lot of scale and a lot of traffic to do multivariate testing, and also take some management time, some software time, development time to do all these things. But if you get to that point, something like multivariate testing can be really important. Focus groups, lab tests, I think they're a bit outdated, but you can still do it, or you can just go to your friends or go to a coffee shop of your target demographic and ask what they think. That can work as well. Personalization, that's a big thing nowadays. Again, it's a bit more corporate, and it takes a bit more attention and management time and software behind it. But the more you can personalize your site to that actual user's experience, the better your conversion rate is going to be with that person. And that's it. Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damien. Really nice talk. Do you guys have any questions? Hello. So I advise a lot of my friends, and funnily enough, almost every one of them is in some sort of coaching or training business. And right now, I all advise them all more or less the same landing page, like the same structure, like product features, benefits, feature pacing, testimonials, all that stuff. And I have a gut feeling that what I'm advising them is a good idea. But do you have like preferred landing pages or preferred websites that you would recommend? So for someone who has like a random standout website, like which website would you point them to and would tell them like those guys have done it really well, look at their landing pages or look at their Facebook ads and where they take you? Just best case practices or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of it I'm going to keep harping back to is contextual. So it depends a bit on what type of business they're in, the coaching, the demographic, and the target. So I can't say off the cuff. I just don't know, just on the spot, as well as without knowing anything about the context of your friends and clients. So if you send me some of their examples, I'm glad to help you with that for sure.
Who else has questions?
I've built my website on WordPress, and it's all the prime tool for people to build their own things and the optimization. And I've been told that it's so much worth it. There's so many other platforms. You were just mentioning a little bit that it depends on the context, but what's the value of using WordPress now as a coach or mentor or somebody who would like to send some information through blogs and different approach?
Yeah.
What's the value of it? Truly.
Well, the context of Viola's question was a bit different. She didn't ask about the back end. It was more the marketing and the sequencing and the features and benefits and a lot of the hard elements I kind of laid out here. So WordPress can be totally fine. If coded properly, if designed properly, there's nothing wrong with WordPress at all for a small business, even a medium business. So WordPress is inherently not good or bad. It's the person behind it, who's developing it, who's coding it at the foundation technical level. And then the second step, like we just mentioned with Viola, is the marketing and the copy and the sales process. So WordPress is totally fine. So there's nothing inherently good or bad about WordPress. It's just who's behind it. Kind of like, who's driving a car in a race. The car is great, but is the person a good or bad driver?
Yeah, and I'm not surprised with this answer. Now, what other platforms would you suggest besides the WordPress platform?
There are many others. I mean, there's WordPress that's very common. We can talk offline. I'm not a coder myself. I work with coders and designers, but people use other platforms?
I've tried Squarespace. I've looked into the new thing, the Grid. I've done Weebly. I've done a couple of others.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I've
Weebly.
been kind of encouraged to use WordPress as a designer.
Well, speaking a bit before the talk, if you understand code, I think you're going to be better off in something like WordPress. Some of the other programs like Wix, Weebly, they're for people who are not coders. So it's a very visual orientated product, and it's not as powerful, maybe not as responsive, not as dynamic, not as customizable. So if you're going to do any code yourself, as we were talking about before the talk, or you're going to work with someone who's actually can code, and when I say can code, it's not rocket science. There are many people who can do it. It's a skill, but it's not, you're not born with the talent. It's just people who took time to learn that skill. Hire someone and work with them. So I wouldn't use, if you can, Wix or something like that, because you're going to be better off doing it yourself. And stuff like WordPress, you can buy great templates and just customize them yourself. So the days of coding something from scratch are almost over. You can buy templates and plugins and you're good to go.
I have a few questions. So you mentioned using videos, and I was wondering if you have an e-commerce website, what kind of videos you should be placing on the website and where?
We had a retail client, a few thousand products, and we put video descriptions of the product on the product page of that product. We didn't do all. We used the 80-20 rule, and we put it on the top 10% or top 20% of sellers, which represented top 20% of items would represent 80% of sales. And the conversion rate increased because people were able to watch the video, watch a review, watch the sales person show the item and talk about the item, talk about the features and benefits. So in an e-commerce sense, in a product sense, clearly on the product page itself, if you have a video of the product, it could work in an About Us. The founder could talk. It could work on a header where you're showing a video of the experience, of the hotel, of the beach, people who want to stay here. So again, it's contextual, but video can work almost in any context. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I have a lot of one-of-a-kind products and a lot of products that are made in small batches of say 5 to 15 pieces. I don't think it will make a lot of sense to make videos specifically for that. But you've also been talking about the paradox of choice and having too many choices on your website. Would that apply to the number of products that you have?
No. As I had mentioned during the talk, it doesn't apply to your product catalog. You won't go to Amazon and say you shouldn't have 10 million products, you should have 1 million. No. But in the purchase process or in the conversion or in the sign up or whatever the path to purchase, you want to limit the navigation, you want to limit distractions, you want to limit digressions. That's really where the paradox of choice comes in the context of this. So it's not about you having less products. That's more of a business decision, that what products are relevant to your business. But the paradox of choice in this is about getting people from point A to point purchase. So that's where the paradox of choice applies in this. And to your comment about the small batches is one thing, but if it's a really high margin, high expensive item, it may still be worth the video. So it depends on the amount of revenue that's producing and the amount of profit and the amount of money it takes to make the video. And if you're a small business, and if you're a business that's not hiding the fact that you're a small business, or you're a sole proprietor, or you're making jewelry yourself, or you're a coach, or whatever the case may be, you can do something on your iPhone, and people may accept it if that's the nature and the voice of your business and your personality. So when we say video, it doesn't have to be video production. We have Shane here who's an expert, and he's doing great video production here. You don't necessarily need that level of service depending on the context of your business. You may be able to do just a homemade video on your iPhone in the best conditions that you can control, and that might be good enough. So don't make it a bigger thing than maybe it needs to be.
And last one is about the search optimization. We're talking about one client who had who really increased conversion by having very good on-site search. So what was so good about it?
What was so good about it is they had a catalog of several thousand products, and it's hard to navigate through several thousand products if you know what you want, particularly if you want a very specific item, which we only have 2 SKUs in the whole inventory, but that's what you want. So if you key it in and the autocomplete, similar to Google, completes and you see that item and you click it, you're already from homepage to middle of the funnel heading towards the bottom of the funnel. So you're getting people to where they need to be faster. Particularly, it's relevant for a big catalog. And when you said small batches, if you have a small amount of products and not a wide selection, site search may not be relevant because they can easily browse, or you can just show things up front. If you have a wide selection, then it gets people from homepage or wherever they are down to your product mix faster, and also allows them to find niche products that'll be difficult to navigate to because you have to filter through all of the other products. So site search in that case was really, really important. And in site search, you can look at the keyword stream of your customers. So after you set it up, say give it a month, depending on your volume, the patterns will continue to repeat. So you can put keyword suggestions, you can put recommended items, because you essentially know what people are going to search day in, day out, month in, month out. So you can use that to pre-populate and pre-navigate where people want to go. The same way Google, you type in something, it shows you the most popular search first, the second most popular second. You can do that on your own site very, very easily with different plugins and some time on the back end to create and manage it. It's really not complicated at all.
Are you able to segment your traffic, say with like the control versus the test based on particular channels? Like if you find that direct traffic isn't performing well or social isn't performing too well, are you able to segment social specifically, all social traffic into one test versus control, and see if you can manipulate that type of traffic?
Definitely. You definitely can. And to take it a step further, what people do at a higher level is they use personalization to personalize the landing page based on where the person's come from. So they may pass the message through, say they were clicked from a really trusted source, media or a blogger. You kind of pass that data through and the landing page is customized to your experience. So yes, you can definitely test it, and 2, take a step further, you can personalize it based on the channel the person came from.
Is that based on UTM tracking, or what else can you use to segment that?
They segment it in their backend, so they have whatever secret sauce they do to separate it out.
I might follow up on that. Talking about landing pages that change depending on the parameter that is passed through. Using a WordPress site, how do you do that? Is there a good plugin for that? Because I tested, I think, one and completely fucked up my site. Like, is there a preferred one to use for that kind of stuff?
I'm not a developer or coder, so I won't pretend to be one now.
Okay.
So I can't answer that question. Not sure.
We are so far just the direct to contact form at the dive center. We have a lot of functionality and things we need to ask. We thought it's better to offer them add-ons like transport and accommodation and these things. But would you, in any case, always have the optionality to buy directly the standard product, just buy the credit card, or can it be better to go on and just have the contact and do it personalized, customized?
Can you give me 30-second context of your use case? Because it's too broad to say without some context.
Yeah, well, basically we ask you, when are you coming? What do you
We
want?
say when you coming where to do what?
Are you a certified diver? What do
But are you a hotel? Are you a villa? What
No,
are
a
you?
dive center.
Okay, dive center. Okay.
So we could sell just dives, go on, but then the chance is that they kind of buy a product that is not adapted to them, or that we could actually sell much more add-on. That's why we didn't have a purchase function yet. It's only a contact us, and then we deal with them, exchange emails until the conversion. But how high do you value in such a kind of? Also, our business model is very, we're customized. We customize everything for you. Would you still go and have a shopping cart there, buy just your standard dives?
I would say both. First thing is I mentioned something called a tripwire. So your tripwire may be a standard dive, one dive, and then when they sign up for that, you're dropping them off into another page. You did a standard dive, but you can add on another dive, you can add on another tank. We can set you up in a hotel, we can pick you up at the airport. All these things are added services, boom, 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 boom. Either automatically in the shopping cart if you can price them accordingly, or you contact them after the initial purchase because they're a customer. And what are the odds of you selling a customer who's already giving you money in the concept of the tripwire, a add-on upsell versus trying to upsell everything up front? So I would definitely use the contact us because, again, dives are a bit customizable, but I would absolutely have certain standard, maybe entry-level packages that are set that people can buy up front. So I would definitely do both.
You still have your question?
I just wanted to ask you about lead pages and the value of using it for landing pages, because I've been neglecting. I'm a member, but I've been neglecting to use it properly. So, is there any cues? I guess.
Yeah, I've heard good things about lead pages. I actually haven't used it, but if that's going to be a tool that's going to get you to a page faster, then go ahead. If you're going to create it yourself, if you can code or you have someone working with you, that's just the same. So it's just a tool. So principles here are principles. They're not necessarily use this or this or this. We're talking higher level principles because in 5 years, there are going to be new platforms, new softwares that we're going to be talking about. But the principles, these were used in Rome, in ancient Rome, the same they're going to be used today and when we're all gone. So I try to stay on the principles and follow the tools as they come along. So lead pages could be fine if the principles are followed. If the principles are not followed, lead pages is a waste of time anyway.
So what would be the principles to use lead page properly for, say, a coach?
Will you stay behind and I'll repeat the presentation? So
No, that's okay.
the principles are everything we were talking about.
I know, that's okay. Thanks, David.
I'm kidding. But the principles are everything we said. So if you use WordPress or Lead Pages or Wix or whatever, those are just tools and platforms. The principles are what gonna matter more. Well, one thing I would caution is you use the word developer. Developer is not a marketer in general terms. So when Viola asked me a question, I was quick to admit that I'm not a developer. I'm a marketer and a manager. So I've managed web designers and graphic designers in the past, several of them at my previous gig, and you have to really keep them in control because developers are technical by nature and they have the latest machine and they have the latest tools and they're excited and they want to use it. And your customer may not be up to date with that plugin or that software or that powerful of a machine to process what they want to do. Graphic designers, they want to make something visually stunning and beautiful. And it may wow the customer, but they may not buy a single thing. So, to caution you, if you're speaking to a developer who can make your site, that's similar to the conversation we had 1 second ago. Lead pages or WordPress or whatever, they're each going to be different and relevant in their own way. But if you're not doing the principles that we discussed, you could write it on a piece of paper. It's going to be work the same because you're not going to convert. You're not going to make any money. So use a developer to create and build, but make sure you have an architect to manage the construction site and manage the builder in the sense of building a house. That's how you build a house, right? You go to an architect, they make a plan, they work with you, you hire a builder, and the architect manages the builder and then talks to you. So that's how this relationship would work. You would work with someone like me, and then we would work, or I would work with the developer to make sure this is produced and to be able to talk his language without coding myself, but I can talk the language and understand pricing and times and things of that nature. So use a developer, but also make sure you're managing them or you're working with a marketer type of person so they don't get out of hand. And also, developers are notorious for pulling the wool over their client's eyes. How much does that take? Oh, that's going to take a month. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars. And if someone knew what they were talking about, they said that should take a couple of days and a few $100. So You want to have someone, again, like the architect, who's going to work with the builder and make sure the builder doesn't fleece you.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Cool. So that's it for now. Thank you so much, Damien. I think you gave some really, really helpful advice to everyone. Thank you so much, guys, for your contribution as well. If you want to hear Damien again, he's going to hold a second talk. The poster is over there. It's on 8th of August, and it's on, where did the poster go? It was just there a second ago.
The Essentials of Digital Marketing.
Yeah, Essentials of Digital Marketing, Social Media and Analytics. That's the title. Thank you.
It'll be similar in nature to this, but not as technical and not as deep only on conversions. It'll cover analytics, social, much more broad in nature.
Yeah.
What's more applicable? Well, I would say this is equally applicable as well. So they're both applicable. I wouldn't put one over the other. The second one may be a bit more high level and skimming across many different topics. This went a bit deeper on one topic. So it depends. Your question, if you're just starting out, maybe the second one is more relevant because you don't have a product or a platform yet to apply these principles to. But after you get to the point of having something, this becomes more critical. So I'd say they're equal but different.
Covers a different content, I guess. And we have Genius Talks every Tuesday, so please feel free and join our other talks as well. And then I wanted to announce that tomorrow we have a big event here as well. It's Startup Grind. It's from Google for Entrepreneurs, and we host it here at Genius Cafe. And tomorrow, Michael Craig, the founder of Dojo Bali, the co-working space, is going to be interviewed here. It's going to be a big networking event, so please join us there as well if you want. And right now, if you want to connect, please use our blank business cards and exchange and collaborate. And then also the percentage vouchers, please make use of them. You have 1 more hour to use them and then hand them back to the cashier before you leave, because we try to be sustainable and want to use them again.